see this is Murzin here, and actually I can see now that I see the outfit here. He's wearing the same thing as Krishuk, so it's almost making me think it's a team outfit.
Yeah, maybe that last minute signing.
That's what I'm thinking, because they're not just two guys showing up and happen to be wearing the same outfits, that's for sure. And Eric Majed that we watched earlier, he also has 4 points right now. So I just wanted to make sure to mention that name. He's up there with all of our grandmasters and even has currently more points than Alexander Grisha.
You're saying my body language call is looking good right now?
That's right.
Looking at body language, that guy can play. Yeah.
You're a scout.
I'll take it. Hans plays the London, particularly the
someone like Murzin, and he knows it inside and out. He's not playing the Jobava London, which is crucial because that's one that Hans actually knows very, very well. And what he's chosen to do is a very quick knight e5 with queen f3, and immediately you start to think about moves like g4 and h4 a lot more as white in these positions. The bishop absolutely belongs on the d3 square. Knight c6 is played, but here usually it is moves like g4 and h4 that synergize with knight e5 quickly, and especially the queen coming out to f3.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Murzin is going all in with that approach, or he's going to play something like just queen h3 without touching the g-pawn.
Right.
Once again, 5.5 has been the qualification score, and that means the group of 6 players, maybe with 4 points, anybody who loses this round on 4 out of 5 is likely eliminated from the event. So Murzin, he's on 4 to 5. He wants to win this, but a draw would still keep his chances alive. A loss might be it for him. So he's trying to balance that, what gives you the best chance of qualification and not to go too overboard. But he does have the hardest pairing out of anyone.
Yeah, he certainly does. We might see queen c7, the most natural looking move. It does run into these ideas like knight moving back to g4. So queen c7 might look like you're just adding all the pressure to the e5 knight, but knight g4, it put a tough question to the opponent, because then h7 is loose, and just have to make sure that you're not immediately blundered. I mean, the London is one of those openings that has a solid reputation, but look at the position. This is not a solid game at all, and you can definitely get in big trouble in the London.
Yeah, usually I'm getting in big trouble as black here when I don't properly deal with this queen h3 move, like bishop g5 coming as a threat, maybe some sacks. But I do imagine Hans is fairly hooked up, and just general understanding of the London structure should be a bit heightened with his own experience playing it. This isn't a foreign concept. White playing early, knight e5 and queen h3 or some sort of attack is very standard in the London. So he's just thinking about how does he want to deal with it. And knight e7 is often chosen because you never touch your pawn on this side. G6 weakens the dark squares and it introduces a pin. H6 introduces sacrifices, or makes g4 more potent, because then g4, g5 and the file opens right away. So knight e7, more flexible, bring a knight to f5 or g6, but don't give weaknesses with your pawns for your opponent to attack.
Yeah, very important to try not to give things up as you claim things for yourself. And I say that because the e4 square is one that usually you want to leave your own knight in the London on the d2 square just to watch over e4. So that while you may not prevent knight e4, at the very least, you want to be able to capture it. And here, if you play bishop takes e4, for example, bishop takes e4 and knight g5 comes to mind, but it's just one threat on h7. You're not threatening the e-pawn. Who knows if there's sacrifices there that actually work, but he's got to be very sure before you go into that, because takes knight g5, h6 could be a complete mess.
Yeah, it looks like he's calculating sacrifices, something involving knight g5 or bishop e4 first. Looking at the standings right now, with only one player on 4.5 and maybe some more losses in the field, this definitely feels like it could be one qualifier where someone makes it with 5. I see the possibility there because of the large end. It's definitely a bit more impactful for Murzin. I couldn't think of the alternatives. I could just think of essentially knight g5 or essentially bishop e4. We've committed time to this attack. If you don't
sudden, and knight
oh my goodness,
is played.
Is it the point that after king h7, you just calmly play it? You can't go f3 after king h7 because of bishop c8, maybe? He's calculated this. We knew he was looking for something, so king h8, king h7, the only moves you can't block with a rook. Maybe we have to start calculating now. So, wow. King h8, maybe just knight f7 check, and you have a rook and 2 pawns.
I suppose you could do that. It does seem unusual that would be the case, but yeah, that it could just be as simple as that. I'm actually not sure what else could be threatened here, because yeah, all roads kind of lead to the same thing. And I do think that he's playing king h7, not king h8, because king h8 only allows knight f7 or knight g6 moves with a check, also maybe some bishop h6, but he's playing knight.
It is a rook and 2 pawns for 2 pieces, which might be ample, might be even more than enough. But also black's king on h7 can get pinned. The knight is pinned on e4, and there's ideas of playing f3 and kicking away that knight. And one of the issues for black here, and this is more of a valuation perspective, is bishop on b7, you have 2 minor pieces for a rook, but the bishop on b7 doesn't have scope. It's stuck behind the pawn on d5, which is fine in a normal situation, but the reason 2 pieces are often considered better than a rook is they coordinate in the middle of the game to game squares and outposts and push away pieces. And right now, that bishop on b7 isn't doing that. If white can manage to just castle, get set, eventually play f3, the 2 pieces here don't seem better than the rook to me. And it looks like we have more of an exception to the rule, which is a very impressive read by young Murzin. And c4 is another move that very provocative. You don't want to take on d4 as black because then you're left with an isolated pawn. But at the same time, this is a type of move that could still hurt your own light squared bishop. Hans is probably looking to redeploy that bishop on b7 to c8, find another diagonal. But at the same time, it takes away tension, pressure on white's pawns, and long term, 2 pawns and a rook. Those 2 healthy pawns, it's eventually going to come. f3, e4. You're looking at passed pawns, and that could absolutely be a win condition for white.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I like c4. It feels like white is now more empowered to play f3, e4, whereas previously you did have to watch out for f3, e4, making your d-pawn a bit too loose. So I thought that the tension benefited black, and now...
Intricate. Layered. Chocolate. Wafer. Hazelnut. Effortlessly enjoyed. Irresistibly one of a kind. Irresistibly bueno. Taco Bell's fine.
Minor pieces in endgame. In the middle game, where rooks don't have open files, that's where pieces can be dominant. Here, I don't see that. The knight on e4 is fine, but it can be traded off or kicked away. Knight on g6 isn't that impressive. Bishop on b7 needs to improve. So I see the argument for why the rook and 2 pawns is superior here. It still takes a bit of unraveling for white, but it's coming fast, and that's why you see Hans, with his previous time advantage, is now behind on the clock, deciding how does he stop this. If you go bishop c8, I don't know. Bishop c8 hits the queen, but maybe the queen goes to h5. It could go to e2, but even h5 I'm curious about. I wonder if white is going to try to stop or prevent black's bishop from maybe rerouting to f5 and finding, a bit of a diagonal there. I'm curious about f3.
Right.
What happens after f3?
Very direct move.
It's very direct, but as long as our queen isn't trapped on g4, f3, bishop c8, queen h5, for example, it's a move you want to play. And if you get, okay, white is definitely doing very well here. You've played f3, you have a fantastic light squared bishop. Hans wants to go bishop c8, bishop f5, but it might run into e4.
Yeah.
See, if white castles, wow.
Yeah, I thought short castle for sure was the main move I was considering, and it just seemed with the f1 rook, then looking at the black queen, that you would essentially get e4 no matter what. Whereas this move, now if bishop f5 is played, you don't have e4 like usual. So I'm not so sure about h4, but I feel like Murzin has he's earned a few inaccuracies after some of the tough brilliancies that he's found so far.
I'm shocked that he went for it. And in fact, if he doesn't trade on g6 right now, then black plays bishop f5. You can go queen g6, go into the endgame, trade everything off. Queen g5, I looked at, but after bishop f5, I wasn't necessarily super impressed. The move works. It's very flashy. It might have been what he planned.
And it looks like a mouse.
He has to be very confident with this, because he could have just castled, kept all the options open. This is a bit more forcing. Fortunately, as we go towards an endgame, a rook and 2 pawns is normally a safe position to have in an endgame. Even if black improves their minor pieces, it's hard to imagine black with serious winning chances in an endgame.
Yeah, it does feel now like things are liquidating, and you really don't have that e4 move. So let's say you take on f5, you could throw h5 in. Can also maybe play king f2.
I'm not thrilled with this, because I thought the alternative was quite good to castle and force Hans to make moves.
Yeah.
Here, Hans has to make moves, but the plan is very simple, especially the queen's off. It's to stop white from playing e4 or make it hard as possible. And black can maybe do that. Put a knight on d6, maybe push the f6 pawn to f5.
Yeah.
And knights are good at blockading pieces. We were looking at positions where the pawns could push to e4. Now I'm not seeing that, and I really think Murzin has made some mistakes here, Amon. compared to what he had before.
I think he's misjudged it. H4, H5 was not the right idea. Castling looked like it kept the pressure on. Now, that being said, I don't know that it's the worst position, but Hans will be very happy with how this has turned out. And I think if anyone's going to outplay the opponent, it's probably going to be Hans at this point.
Yeah, all of a sudden you see the activity for the knights. The knight might come to g5 if you go rook g6. e4 tactically doesn't work. And one thing about it, you have 2 pawns and a rook for 2 pieces. You need to keep those pawns flexible. They get fixed, all of a sudden it doesn't feel like 2 pawns anymore. So very curious here, but Hans is playing it all right now. He's improved his position tremendously. And yeah, the metric is White wanted to have those 2 pawns to use them, push them, force the knights to be passive. These knights aren't passive. Knight on g7, defends, hits h5. Knight on g5, blockades, hits f3. e4 is still not that easy to get through. The good thing for Murzin is he's not maybe risking the game yet. It's still a 2-result game, but watch the clock. And we know what happens when you're low on the clock and there's knights dancing around. That's as Danny Wrench would say, it's Fork City. Those knights are gonna be requiring a lot of maintenance to prevent from getting in the position.
That's right. Forktown population us.
Good impression.
Rook f7. The position, I would feel that the players probably are under the impression that Hans is doing quite well. I'm sure that Murzin hasn't lost all hope or anything like that, but it's just one of those positions that you never can really be too confident as White. The knights more often than not do well here. And yeah, look, you're just attacking the h5 pawn and rook h2. All of a sudden the f pawn becomes a potential problem, although I was looking at rook h2, knight takes f3, and rook back to f2.
Murzin's going for it. He didn't want to let the knights just reduce his rooks to passive defense. So he sacrificed the pawn back with the hopes of making progress here. But knights are great blockaders.
Yeah, there's a huge blockade available, knight e6, knight f4, or knight g7 to f5, and just all the light squares belong to Hans Niemann, and he's up 45 seconds. I think he's really, really doing well now.
Great handling of the knights by Hans here. And yeah, the position is flipped. Position is flipped entirely, but just a misevaluation from Murzin. He really thought he could get those pawns rolling and didn't quite happen. Now, his job here, Amon, he's down 30 seconds. Hans is capable. He's playing well. He's up on time. Murzin needs to find a way to liquidate and find a draw, because this could take him out of the tournament.
Yep. And if b5, he's going to play a6.
Look at the coordination here. The knights defend everything.
There was rook g4 in that position.
Oh.
And I think both players overlooked it, and maybe Murzin just spotted it like just a move too late, because rook g4, suddenly that could have been a completely different story.
Yeah, and without finding it, there's almost no moves. The knights dominate. 2 knights stuck together, holding that h5 pawn. Those sad rooks on the h-file.
Yep.
Hans is cruising to another win here. A very interesting game.
Yeah, it really was. It's not done just yet.
Not done just yet. And Murzin is gasping for air, moving the rook to a1, looking for counterplay. But the technique that I'm seeing here makes me very confident. And look at that.
A couple brilliancies by Murzin, but it was Hans with the final brilliancy and the win at the end. So Hans Niemann now moves up to 5.5 points, which all but secures him. I mean, he is definitely going to be one of our top finishers. And Eric, I was looking around at some of the other results as they're